Another great question. When faced with peers or coworkers in the world that claim to be transgendered or are lost in their gender identity, as a Christian, what is the right way to approach people and their preferred pronouns? Really great, important question.
It's great. I think, again, we're talking about, see, we're all being formed by a cultural narrative that mainly comes through the news feeds and the media, and it's not looking at a person right across the aisle from us. And the people that I've met that are transgendered or homosexual, they're not like going, hey, I'm the greatest thing since sliced bread. And maybe you might meet that person, but I meet people that are very broken and are seeking freedom. So I have nothing but compassion for people that are suffering like that. And so it starts with compassion, it starts with listening, it starts with love, in whatever arena you're in, and then as a result of that, to understand how to serve them and how to love them. And what's that mean? I think you earn the right to be heard. You earn the right to serve. And so that takes time, that takes gentleness, that takes respect. And, you respect people. How do you want me to serve you? Well, could you call me this? I'm not going to die on that hill. I'm going to die on the gospel. God calls you a beloved child of God. I want you to know the goodness of Jesus Christ. So I'm not going to let a pronoun issue get in the way of me proclaiming and preaching the gospel to somebody. No way, never, no how. Because that person needs Jesus Christ, and they are going to hell without him. That is the hill we're supposed to die on, guys. And so we have to be careful when we get our own rights and get bent out of sheep from all this. The problem is this. This is forming our mindset towards our neighbor. We can't let this form our mindset. We got to go love our neighbor and build a relationship. Then the gospel is going to come out.
Yeah,
that's what we got to do.
So good, Bucky. And we're going to do a whole teaching on LGBTQ in this series over the next few weeks. And so we'll have a lot more time to expand, hopefully. And this is a great question, comes up every time, so we're only going to be able to scratch the surface. But I agree with Bucky saying we have to earn the right to keep our seat at the table of dialogue. If you have friends, neighbors, coworkers, family, people in your family who still trust you enough, they count you safe enough to have the dialogue with them, count your blessings. Because as soon as we dishonor that precious trust that we have with them, they're going to go find out what's the great answer and what's the great idea from the person down the street. So maintaining that beautiful bridge is important. Even if you believe in a traditional historical doctrinal view about, one man, one woman, even if that's the view you embrace like this church embraces. Maintaining that gracious conversation is really important. And the last thing I want to say on it is...
Yeah, and there's a time and a truth to share that. And definitely we want to share the truth, but we're supposed to speak the truth in love. And Jesus led with grace, right? And truth came out of that grace. And many times we lead the conversation the world does with truth and judgment and condemnation, and it totally blows up what we're actually supposed to be doing. So we have to have wisdom and humility and understand what the end game is, right?
Yeah. And I'll just finish with an anecdote on this question from my life. There's a hunting store that's like right down the street from my house, and I like to go just to window shop. And then eventually I started building rapport with a couple of the guys behind the counter, and I'll go just to visit them, see how they're doing, because I see that this is their whole life, and it's a community, and you can keep tabs with your neighborhood by remembering names and building friendship. And one day, this guy divulges, he already knows what I do for a living. He knows I work at a church, and he shares with me one day that he has twin daughters, and yet one of them has now transitioned to be a boy and has changed his name. And I'm just kind of amazed, stunned that he feels comfortable to share this with me. And I don't have anything, there's no huge, powerful takeaway from this. I want to be practical and use a real example of how I've experienced this. So that's the first thing. Like, I just counted my blessings that this guy would feel safe. In a world, probably, by the way, in that type of store, by the way, where he just hears the crap and the anger and the distortion and the talking points every day. People, imagine this guy's position. I want you to get in his shoes for a second. The dad who's trying to do right by raising these teenage girls, just trying to figure it out the best he can. And every day, guys are in there just haranguing him and just hurling abuse, at people who are now living in his home every day. And they never even knew that. I want you to remember this truth. It's so important. Beware, because everyone you run into is fighting a hard battle. Beware, because every person that you cross paths with is fighting a hard battle, and you never know what kind of battle they're fighting.